Attention please. Final call for the special flight to Meekatharra, Wittenoon, Port Hedland, Broome, Derby, Kununurra and Darwin. Passengers are advised that their aircraft is now ready for departure.
Schools have broken up for mid-year holidays, and outback children have gathered like migrating birds for takeoff to all points north. These young people from boarding schools in Perth have families waiting to welcome them at various stages along the route. Some have homes in northwest ports, towns and mining centres, others on isolated sheep and cattle properties. Helen and Richard Marsh live at Callaroo Downs, a cattle station in the remote East Kimberleys. Young Richard, away from home for the first time, can hardly wait for takeoff. Plane fares for school children with homes in the north are subsidised by the government. This means that outback children can go home at least twice a year. All set for home, and for Helen and Richard, the start of their Kimberley holiday. From Perth, the holiday special heads north to Meekatharra, centre for the wool growers and miners of the Murchison River district. On to Wittenoon Gorge, amongst the rich blue asbestos mines, to Port Hedland, busy outlet for wool and minerals. Then the vast Kimberley district. Children will be met at the pearling port of Broome, others at Derby, port for wool and cattle, and at the meat port of Wyndham. Then on to Kununurra, beside the Ord River Diversion Dam, central feature of the first stage of the Ord irrigation project, and designed to irrigate 30,000 acres. Helen and Dick, now the only passengers, are almost at the end of their 1,700-mile journey. They'll have a better view of the irrigated area up front, if the captain will allow them to watch from the cabin. Just coming in over the farms now, the captain tells Helen and Dick. You may be able to see the cotton harvest. Cotton, safflower, linseed, rice and sugar have been found to grow successfully here. And since the completion of the diversion dam, irrigated land has been leased to selected farmers, each farm consisting of 600 acres. Kununurra airstrip and warm sunshine. In the winter months or dry season in the north, the sun shines brightly from May to September. The Land Rover from Callaroo Downs has driven nearly 100 miles to meet the plane. Jack, mechanic and general handyman at the cattle station, explains to the airport agent that he's picking up the children. Meeting planes is a job after Jack's heart. His boss is so busy with the cattle muster that not even half a day can be spared for a trip to Kununurra. Helen and Richard have already discarded blazers. They haven't forgotten how hot it can be in the dry season. Jack checks that the children had a good sleep on the plane. After all, not many children travel almost 2,000 miles to get home from school. Now for the last stage of the journey. On the way home, they'll drive past some of the farms they saw from the air. This block belongs to a family that sold up a property in the south to pioneer a farming block on the Ord. It was one of the first 5 farms to start production in '63. To feed water to the farms, irrigation channels and ditches had to be constructed. For the water, farmers pay $3 per acre foot. Water from the ditches is siphoned off and fed in this way to the row crops, such as safflower and this newly planted cotton. In other paddocks, the cotton crop planted just before the wet season is now ready for harvest. Gigantic mechanical pickers make short work of the job. The massive machines are able to strip off the fluffy cotton bolls without harming the growing plant. No sign of the Prodinia moth that spoiled the first year's crop. Aerial spraying of insecticide has seen to that. Farmers can now expect a yield of 2,000 pounds of seed cotton to the acre. From here, the cotton will be taken to the ginnery. There, machines will remove the seeds, later to be used in the manufacture of high-protein cattle fodder. The cotton will then be compressed, packed in bales, and shipped to spinners in the south, whose buyers come to Kununurra to settle the purchase price. Jack and the children wait long enough to see a full trailer set off for the ginnery. Then they too must be on their way. They have a long drive ahead with only one property between here and Callaroo Downs. To many remote stations like Callaroo Downs, the transceiver radio is a vital means of communication. Introduced as part of the Flying Doctor Service, the network ensures that outback families can call upon medical aid. It also provides a school of the air, transmits and receives telegrams, and helps break down the isolation of the outback by enabling people on remote homesteads to communicate with each other.
DR to AN. I was expecting Jackie and the children a couple of hours ago. Have they passed your place yet, Jeanette? Over.
AN. Yes, Enid. They stopped off for a while to see the cotton crop coming off at Kununurra. They were through just after lunch. Should be home any time now. Over.
Dear. Oh, thanks, Jeanette. Cheerio for now.
AN. Cheers and that.
It's end of term for the younger ones too. No more radio lessons or correspondence school for a while. But here's Jack back at last and the children with him. Off goes John to tell his mother that they've arrived. With Helen and Richard home once more, now the holidays can really begin. Later that afternoon, Helen and Dick set off in search of their father. They know what part of the run he is mustering and are impatient to see him. The Callaroo stockmen have been mustering this area for several days now, bringing in the cattle who graze freely over the vast open range. The property carries 5,000 head of cattle, and though not large compared with many stations in the north, it covers 500 square miles. It's a tough existence for people who live in the outback, but for Ron Marsh and for his children, it's a good life. They wouldn't change it for life in the city at any price. Throughout the property, strong stockyards have been erected at distances of about 10 miles apart. In this stockyard, the cattle are being drafted. That is, the unbranded cattle, or clean skins, are being separated from the rest of the herd. As the cattle are driven through the drafting gate, Mr. Marsh checks them for brand marks and ensures that the clean skins are driven into separate pens. Helen has watched drafting often enough, but when the cattle are stubborn, it's always exciting. It's all very bewildering to the calves, who try their hardest to get back to their mothers. But now all the clean skins are ready for branding. Each one will be given the station's registered brand and special earmark. This is essential if the station owner is to keep a check on his stock, especially in a country where properties merge, often without dividing fences. The branding process is quick and efficient. But first the brand is tested. It should be hot enough to burn the hair of the calf without harming the skin. Although the work of only a few minutes, the calf will bear this brand for life. It's hot, dusty work, even for those who are watching. Callaroo Downs mark. There'll be no doubt that the calf belongs to this station. Now the calves will be released to graze undisturbed, some to become sleek steers, fatted for market, others young cows ready to breed calves of their own. Mounted stockmen stand by ready to control the disturbed cattle as they leave the stockyard and to guide the mob to water and then on to the open range. Flying Fox Creek, the station's nearest watering place, is typical of the deep holes that last long after the rivers have stopped running at the end of the summer rains. A cool retreat in its setting of paper barks and spiky pandanus palms, it's a favourite picnic place for the Marsh family. The disturbance annoys the hundreds of flying foxes who regard this waterhole as their domain. Though fox-like in appearance, these fruit bats live on nectar and berries and are harmless. As harmless as the long-nosed freshwater crocodiles that dart away at the first sound of disturbing visitors. Young John has brought his fishing line, hoping to catch a barramundi or perhaps a silver brim. A bite at last. Only a common catfish, but good eating. He'll get his mother to cook it for his lunch. Lunch is just about ready. Water